Hello, welcome back to the Cakey Duck. This is my channel where I discuss all things cake decorating. If you are a beginner cake maker, this channel is good for you because you're going to learn everything from beginner steps to pro baker. Today we are talking about all things cake dowels. Yeah, cake dowels. And this is part of a series I started. So the series is it's a beginner series basically, and we've done all things cake boards, all things cake tins. So now we are doing all things cake dowels. Let's get right to it. If you've not subscribed, kindly subscribe. I don't know what you're waiting for, but please subscribe and click the notification button to get all my videos here. So what is a cake dowel? So cake dowels are basically any of these supports that you put inside the cake to help hold the structure up. I don't know if you've seen cakes that maybe tall cakes that are leaning or like have bulges to the sides, or maybe cakes that just fall apart while being transported. Well, it usually has something to do with whether there were dowels there or whether the dowels put were not enough or adequate or strong enough to hold the cake. So yes, that's why we're talking about cake dowels. Why do you need, or which cakes are you gonna put a dowel in? So when I started decorating cakes, of course I started with shorter cakes, so I didn't need cake dowels. But by the time I started making taller cakes, and of course transporting the cakes from one place to another, I found that I needed to support my cakes better. So that is where I then had to start using cake dowels. So you can use cake dowels in a single tier cake if it's a tall cake. So if you're talking about cakes like as tall as like 6 inches and above, 7 inches cake, 8 inches, 9 inches tall, please use a cake dowel. Of course, if you're doing like 2-tier cakes, 3-tier cakes, then definitely you need dowels to be able to hold the weight of the top tier cakes and to balance those weights on top of the lower tier. So yeah, so there are different types of dowels. They have like different like pros and cons. So I'm just going to be showing you the different ones, and we are going to discuss the different type, the advantages and disadvantages. So the first one is, well, a wooden dowel. So you can see this is made from wood. Of course, the pros is that it's very sturdy, is hard, so it can, it's strong. So, and also I like the fact that it's quite thin, because by the time you start inserting different dowels into your cakes, of course, they start taking up space in the cake. So having it's thin, it's not going to take up too much space. And yeah, so those are the pros for me. The con of it, I would say, would be that you can cut it easily, to be honest. So, but I mean, there are other dowels that are better at cutting than this one, because with this one, because it's wood, you can't cut it with the scissors. You have to use a garden shear. Um, a garden shed, I think that's what it's called. So you have to use something like this to cut it. But with this, you can easily actually cut it. So yeah, so wooden dowels you can use if that's what you are able to get. Then you have plastic dowels. So you have one like this. You have this one, the PVC um, dowel, which is also a plastic. um this one is a bit, you can see it's fatter, it's bigger, so it's kind of for the center, especially for like 2-tier cakes and 3-tier cakes. This works well because it's fat, so it can work as a center dowel. um and it's sturdy, it's very strong, very strong. Even this one is very strong. The downside of this though is that it's not very easy to cut. Not at all. You can't cut this with the scissors because they're so strong. See, it is so I'm really pressing hard, and it's so difficult to cut with the scissors. You definitely, it's so difficult to cut with the scissors. Even with a garden shed, it's not as easy to cut. Like, it's really not as easy to cut with a garden shed, unlike the with the wooden one. So I don't know. I mean, eventually with a garden shed, with prodding and prodding, you eventually be able to cut it. But yeah, so that's the downside of this plastic board. They're very strong, very sturdy, but cutting can be a big deal. So I don't typically use this, to be honest, nowadays. But if I'm doing a two-tier cake, then I use this because I want that center. But the other one, and I really recommend, is the bubble straw dowels. Of course, they're longer than this usually, but these are like the parts I've cut out, so that's why they're short like this. But this is bubble straw. These are bubble straws, so they're actually straws. So the good thing about this is that, one, they're cheap, and also they are very easy to cut with the scissors, like this. Very easy, like that. Very easy. Yeah, so that's I mean, this is my go-to, to be honest. I love this. Of course, the downside of it is that, unlike the wooden rods that are thinner, I mean, these occupy more space. So you can imagine, if you have to put like four, that was one, two, three, four, or five, is already occupying a lot of. I mean, it may not really make much difference, but I feel like, I would like to have more cake than, yeah. So now, what do I do? Well, because I like the convenience of, just snipping it with scissors, I still go with this most times. So when I'm not able to, then I can go with this. But I use the wooden dowels more for single tier cakes, like my tall cakes. I use the wooden as my center dowel. So when I drill into my board, I then use this as the center dowel. And most times, if I'm going to drill into the board and use this as a center dowel, it kind of holds the whole cake, to be honest. Except if I'm like traveling a long distance, then I want it to be more secure. Then I can add these bubble tea straws. But yeah, so that's really about the dowels. In terms of what number, how many dowels to put, we just eyeball it, to be honest. Depending on the size of the cake, you want to have a central dowel, then you want to have dowels at each side. So I do like a kind of like a hexagon, or just four, depending on how small. Of course, if you have a 5-inch cake, then there's not much space to put too many dowels. So a central dowel may just be enough. But if it's very tall and you're traveling, then you may just want to put four extra. So just one here, one, and another one. So you have your center, and then your four for that 5-inch. And then, if of course, if you have wider cakes, then of course more dowels you put. But yeah, so those are the dowels. And just leave me a comment below. Tell me if you've worked with any of these dowels. If you have any other questions about the dowels, are you going to be trying them? Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And if you've not subscribed, kindly subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.